Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark, and joining me today for a good old fisting for the Emperor, we got my dear friend Christian and my favorite fister himself. What's good?
How's it going? Man, I don't know if we ever had like an intimate one-on-one episode before.
No, weird, man. That is strange.
It's the two of us.
Just the two of us today. Court might be joining us later in this episode, but yeah, one-on-one with Christian. And today we're talking about the Imperial Fists, so it's going to be a fun episode. Me and you, honestly, lots of people think me and Eric talked a lot about Warhammer, but me and you talked way more about Warhammer. Just it was never really recorded, and we've had many conversations.
Oh, it was recorded, all right. I'll record everything you do.
Okay, well, it wasn't released, published, or at least not that the OnlyFans. That's where the content's been coming from. I've been wondering.
Yeah, that's where all the fans are, man.
Fuck, okay, it's all coming together. But man, we've talked about so many chapters so many times. I love Imperial Fists personally. I think they kind of hold a nice little spot in your heart too.
Yeah, they're definitely up there. Not my favorite, but definitely, top 5 for sure.
Yeah, and with 20, that's not too bad. Not too bad. Let's do some quick housekeeping before we get into this episode. We got Discord. Come join the Discord. It's fun. You can hang out. We send messages to each other. There's voice chats. You can just message me at any time of the day and it pings my fucking phone. It's pretty crazy. Try it out. It's pretty neat, really. But go try out the Discord. There's links in the description below. Also, come join our Patreon. It's okay. You can throw us a buck or two on Patreon. There's links below. You click them. Insert your debit card information. No big deal. Bingo bango. Now you're a proud sponsor of Lorehammer. So go join the Patreon. $2.50 or $5 for video version.
And you get the added bonus of accessing the live stream and chat room during the show. And you could also maybe become a call-in guest at the end of an episode. So you could actually be part of Lorehammer.
Yeah, maybe even if you're in the chat right now, I see a couple people and you want to call in and help read through this episode, you're more than welcome to as we were in for court. Oh, everyone just left. Oh, just like that.
Like that.
Oh, okay. Henderson. All right, well, whatever. Fuck it.
Cowards.
Today we're doing Imperial Fist 30K Legion era. So in this episode, we'll cover the origins, the Great Crusade, the Horus Heresy, a little bit of the Great Scouring. And then we'll talk about what did the Imperial Fists, these great and glorious Astartes, looks like. One of my favorite pictures is it's row upon row of Imperial Fists, and they got that cool yellow and the white helm. Great artwork. I should try to find it later this episode. Then we'll get into their beliefs. There's a bunch of different things that they like to get up to, from honor duels to scrimshawing to sticking themselves in pain gloves. So we'll learn all about that fun.
As one does, yes.
As one does, yeah. Then we'll talk about their gene seed. They got a couple cool things that are non-canon. It's from Fantasy Flight Games, which I always like pulling from. And then we'll get into recruitment, homeworld. They got a bunch of different homeworlds, the king of homeworlds. Then finally, combat doctrines, martial traditions, organization, and so on and so forth. At the end of this episode, we're talking about all the first founding chapters, or second founding, I mean, which are going to be pretty sweet too. So
it's a list, all right.
It's a list. But we'll get through it. I think on this episode, honestly, I'm kind of excited for all the second founding stuff. Learning about all those chapters again, going through them. Ooh. Why have just one Imperial Fist when you can have them all?
On all different flavors.
Exactly. Yes, now we're talking. All right. Yeah, we'll go back and forth there, Christian, on reading it if you want to start off.
All right. Let's get into their history. The Imperial Fists are among the first founding chapters of the Space Marines, originally the 7th Legion of the Legions Astartes, forged by the Emperor himself from the children of Terra during the Unification Wars. They stand apart from their brothers, for the Imperial Fists have no fixed homeworld. While Terra has long been their base of operations, they rely upon their ancient war fortress, the Phalanx, a vast mobile bastion that serves as their fortress monastery. The Phalanx is both their sanctuary and weapon, its hull etched with the legacy of their countless victories. Across the Imperium, the Imperial Fists maintain recruitment chapels on many worlds. Throughout the Great Crusade, they served as the Emperor's personal praetorians, an ever-present shield at his side, striking when his will called for the decisive destruction. With the Emperor's grievous wounding and internment within the Golden Throne, that sacred role passed to the Adeptus Custodes. Yet the trust he once placed in the Imperial Fists endures, a potent and solemn honor still carried by the chapter and their successors even now. The Imperial Fists are the eternal heirs to the legacy of Rogal Dorn, their Primarch. His name is etched into the memory of trillions across the Imperium, revered as a symbol of unwavering resolve.
Yeah, very cool. We're going to be talking about the Phalanx again in this episode. I feel like it's its own little mini character of the Imperial Fists with just how much it gets up to.
Just on its own.
Yeah, for real.
Runs around doing things.
Yeah. The Emperor's Praetorians, they're very cool, man. What I have always liked about them is just kind of they're stern, they're going to get stuff done, but they're not like, you know, you got the flip side, of course, the Iron Warriors, where they're almost depressed. Like these guys they're happy to do their job. They're just not going to smile while they're doing it, you know?
Yeah. Stern is a good example. Like they take pride in their work, but they're not like, you know, happy-go-lucky or anything.
They ain't no white scars laughing maniacally, I guess, with the cannon as they ride by. Yeah. A little more relatable, I feel like. A little more just like almost if you could have a basic soldier, you'd have Imperial Fists and Ultramarines as kind of your basic Astartes super soldier.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good way to portray them, is like almost like the baseline template before you get into some of the more exotic versions, let's say.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into their origins then. If the Emperor was the architect of the Legions of Astartes, then Terra was their anvil. As he forged warriors with vision and genecraft, so too did the scars of old Earth shape those drawn from her broken soil. These wounds, more than marks, etch deep into the character of each legion, silent yet indelible. In seeking to understand the nature of any legion, one must first reckon with the truth of Terra. Old Earth was a carcass draped in blood and madness, a fractured world ruled by tyrants and the deranged. No hope endured there, only the flickering embers of survival and the echo of war. The Emperor brought fire into order. His first armies rose from the barbarian tribes, then the Thunder Warriors, when the true instruments of conquest, the Legions of Astartes. With flame and discipline, he subdued Terra. It was for this work and the order to come that the 7th Legion was born. The earliest companies of the 7th Legion bore no single bloodline, no tribal allegiance. Their first honor was won beneath the ash-choked sky of Roma. Where other legions drew their strength from a singular stock, the 7th was hewn from the totality of Terra. So that's a cool point already. All original Space Marines would have come from Terra, but the Imperial Fists have always recruited from Terra, and that they are an amalgamation of anywhere on Terra.
Yeah, you often get like later in the Great Crusade, you get kind of contrast between the Terran Marines and then their homeworld Marines, where there isn't that much of that conflict, and especially since they're loyalists as well.
Yeah, certainly. And I'm sure those tensions were there even in the loyalist chapters as well, right? There's always that mark of separation between a Terran born and a Primarch world Marine.
We got Court who just showed up. Yo,
I'm here.
Unfashionably late.
Yes.
I blame Arizona because Christian, are you on Mountain Standard Time?
Yes.
So what time is it there for you?
7:56.
Okay. Arizona does like its own bullshit, and we're like Mountain Standard Time for like a little bit, and then we go, nope, fuck this. We don't want to do that. So it is. It's 6:56 right now here.
Nice. The more you know. It's weird that this is the first time we've run into this issue recording so often.
So I got the message like, hey guys, we're starting. Court, join us when you can. I'm like, I just like shoveled a huge spoonful of mac and cheese in my mouth. Oh fuck! Oh, okay. Oh man, I'm watching like reviews on why Batman v Superman sucks, and I'm eating dinner, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm missing it. Okay, thanks a lot, Arizona. You suck again.
Thanks a lot, Arizona. Just when I was gonna go there, now they're off my list and on a different one.
Yeah, there
I'm
you
gonna
go.
stop drinking Arizona iced tea just to.
Well, hang on there.
I can't.
Let's not go.
Let's not get crazy. I regretted saying it as soon as I said it. I'll never stop drinking that delicious drink. And sponsor of today's episode. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
One day, maybe.
Well, Court, I'm glad to have you because this episode we got one part that I think you're gonna like because it involves. Well, we'll get to it when we get to it, but something white and precious, we'll say.
Okay.
We're talking Imperial Fists.
Well, yeah. All right.
You'll know it when you see it.
You'll know it when you see it.
Okay. Wait, Christian's not going to moon the camera, is he?
You'll see.
You'll know it when you see it.
And if you join the Patreon, you too can see what comes up.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. All right. Back to the Imperial Fists. One more quick comment I just wanted to make too. We're just talking about their origins, Court.
Cool. Yeah, I see that. Mm-hmm.
They some of their first battles are in a place called Roma on Earth, Roma.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could be a number of different places on Earth now, or in the 30th millennium. It could be Rome, it could be Romania, it could be somewhere where the Roma people of today have settled and named. It could be, yeah. I'm just saying, it could be any number of places.
Do you have a preference for any of them?
I mean, it makes the most sense if it was Rome itself, just with the whole Praetorian theme and pseudo Greco-Roman Empire business.
Sure.
But who knows?
I like to think of it.
I'm serious when I said that.
I mean, it's most likely, I would say Rome, but I like to think of it as a place where the beer flows like wine, where beautiful women instinctively flock to the salmon of Capistrano.
Yeah.
That just sounds
maybe
like
it's Aspen. I don't know. Maybe it's Aspen.
Name change. Yeah. All right. Even in the presence of other legions, Tithe writes, the 7th extracted their chosen. They claimed the hardest, the most enduring. Youths slow to speak, but quick to move, silent yet immovable. Why such uniformity arose from such variance is uncertain. Perhaps it was the cruelty of their gene seed, which wrought agony as it remade flesh. Or perhaps the pattern once set became ritual, and ritual became identity. What is certain is that only those of grim heart and unshakable will endured the fires of their transformation. For the 7th, conquest was not a matter of glory, but a necessity. The Imperium could not survive by breaking its enemies alone. It had to hold, endure, and root itself deep. Ruins are not victory. A broken world can be reclaimed by darkness. The 7th ensured it would not. This creed governed their every campaign. They spent lives as stone is spent in the raising of walls, deliberately with purpose, to last their triumphs. Were more than battles, they were foundations.
That's super cool, that creed. You see it carry on even through the Great Crusade, where it's like, yeah, they conquer that place, but they don't leave it worse off. They're not here to raise every building to the ground.
Yeah. If anything, they build it back better.
Yeah.
Was that slogan intentional? Maybe.
Hard to say. Wait, Roma's the USA?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, good to know.
Yes. When the cities of the Crystal Sea fell, it was the 7th who shattered them, and from the rubble they raised the fortress of the 5th Circle. In the frostbitten heights of Himalaya, 3 battalions perished defeating the wind callers. Yet before their blood dried, bastions rose into the sky, cold and endearing. Wherever they conquered, they built 600 fortresses in their first decade alone, each a silent citadel of discipline and strength. The bones of the Legion lie within many, mortared into the walls, their death made eternal. That is so cool. Burying your dead in the castle walls, just not as a punishment, as some might do today, but more as a like a mark of honor. Like you died here, you're part of the fortress now. That's very Imperial Fist.
Love a good bone wall.
It's classic.
The strength of those towers was more than stone. They were symbols. The old ways died beneath their shadows. Rebellion could no longer take root. It would be crushed before it flowered. But the 7th Legion were not merely masons of war. They were the iron of the Emperor's hand, the edge of his wrath. While others celebrated triumph, the 7th moved forward, always forward. What they held, they fortified. What they faced, they crushed. Yeah, it's a very strong theme, obviously, of like fortress building stuff, but it does make sense. They're like masters of garrisoning places, right? Like we said, when they conquer something, they're not interested in ruling over rubble and allowing like the root of heresy to like embed itself. A conquered people can sometimes like 99% of the time become hostile towards their conquerors. But their job is like to create a fortress, a bastion, and actually like rule over the place that they conquer. So I can't imagine a lot of Imperial Fist conquered planets during the Great Crusade would rebel without some serious, I don't know, infiltration, let's say.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, maybe that's a fun little, how each legion is like, this is the best for this, or this is the best for that. Most claimed planets in the Great Crusade, they all claim that title. But that'd be a good one. Like the Imperial Fists had the least rebelled planets during the Heresy or something like that for sure. Yeah, I feel like that would make sense. Like, yeah, they're there. They've made it better. They're not tyrants either. Like,
they're just garrisoning and controlling the territory. They put down rebellions very quickly if they ever were to rise up, so it doesn't become a bigger problem later, right? You have like 2 or 3 rabble rousers, okay, just grab them and pull them off the streets, and then no problem.
I love the idea of like an award show at the end of like a millennia or something like, and the award for best garrison and least hostile takeover goes to Rogal Dorn, Imperial Fists. Well done. Come on down.
Well done.
And then he has like a golden statue that's like of the Emperor, and it's like the MPs. He gets the MP.
The MP award. Yeah. Oh yeah. If the Emperor did that, I'm sure they wouldn't have turned traitor half his sons. Just a little acknowledgement.
What they do is they have the 4 of like the people that are nominated, and it's always like it would probably always be who's like the always nominated never wins is just Fulgrim maybe a little bit in there, but
Sanguinius maybe just
Sanguinius maybe
preemptive where it's like he's gonna sacrifice himself. He's not gonna win it.
Sanguinius would definitely win awards. Sanguinius and Horus are probably the 2 big award winners. And then everyone else kind of scales behind them.
Could be Ferrus Manus.
He's never nominated though, that guy.
No, he's just like God damn it.
The other thing I was going to mention too, actually, in that same kind of line of reasoning, remember when we talked about Dorn and like his conquest? Like, by all accounts, he's a great Primarch, but his numbers were maybe not that high. It takes time to build and fortify places, so it could be that they weren't, the fastest to just conquer worlds because they were actually staying behind and developing and fortifying the planets that they did conquer.
We're just drinking this Imperial Fist Kool-Aid propaganda. Oh yeah, they are the best. I like it. Pour me another cup.
Yeah.
All right. Assault was their calling. They fought with massed battalions, wielding war like a hammer. On Kenistar's plains, the 5th Battalion broke the tyranny with 50 engines at the spearhead. The dust they raised turned day to night. In Galabaz's tunnels, they shattered the crust and descended into the black before the echoes of the breach had died. They left nothing standing that could not be remade stronger. And from these victories, their name was forged. Those who beheld the lands held by the 7th said it was as if the hand of the Emperor had clenched an unyielding fist. Hence the name. The Emperor heard and was satisfied. He named them Imperial Fists. He gave them the laurels of victory, not for display, but as a command, to endure, to hold, to conquer. They accepted the name as they had accepted every burden, without complaint, without pride, silent, resolute, unbreakable. That's cool too that they hold the laurels. Like the Emperor's Children got to wear the Aquila as kind of their big badge of honor, and it looks like that the Imperial Fists really got to use the laurels as their kind of claim to fame.
Cool. Yeah.
Would that be second to the Ultramarines though? Because like I feel like the Ultramarines really get the laurels as well.
Yeah, I mean thematically they are obviously drawing on the same real life examples, and I don't think it would be an exclusive award,
Right.
but it'd be kind of like the mark that, you know, like eventually everyone wears the Aquila also, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of maybe the mark that initially sets them apart at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. How do you guys feel about kind of just this little bit? Like, now we really get to the chicken and the egg situation of did the Primarch forge the legions? Now we get like, did the Terran Great Unification War, pre-unification war, did that kind of spark what the Legion is? Because it seems like this is already they're doing what they're doing. Even in the unification wars. Like it seems like they came from this place, Roma, and that's what they kind of did there. And it seems like every time I do these origins for the Legion, we get this similar concept where we just go a little far back.
Yeah, I mean they constantly do this where they blur the line where Legion was taking on aspects of their Primarch, and they talk about how some of their features are baked in to the gene seed. You know, like maybe the sternness of Dorn is baked into his Legion to some degree. But also there are outliers. Like even actually Imperial Fists are a great example when we get into later about how they have different demeanors that kind of split off into the chapters, like the Black Templars, for example, right?
Sure.
So I think it's both, like it is, and then as is real life too, right? Like there's probably a genetic element that kind of shapes their personalities, but also part of their world and upbringing and those aspects too.
The nature versus nurture kind of
Yeah.
debate there. And, I mean, it's and I don't mean this in any sort of derogatory way, but it's like the best lazy writing, you know, to have your main protagonist of a legion embody that legion and vice versa. And that's cool because again, at the end of the day, like not to tear this apart, but like it's a game and it's so easily like these things are paired together because they're meant to be together. So there it is. But
I'm more like how far back do we go though? Like because it seems like Roma is like this, like which before they even get Gene Seed, before they even get anything. But you know, like you said.
No, I think that's a misreading of that part. Like Roma was a place that they made their name for themselves in conquering, but they still recruit from all over. I guess it should be noted too that it looks like they recruit for a certain personality type, which often does happen in a lot of like, you know, like
now maybe
organizations. They do account for personality as well as abilities and talent and all that stuff. Like a good example might be, you know, the military or police who like screen for certain psychological profiles, for example, and try and screen against other psych profiles. In which case, like if the Imperial Fists are recruiting for a certain psych profile, then yes, of course, a lot of them or most of them will have a certain demeanor just by virtue of their recruiting practices.
I literally do the same thing at work because I'm the recruiter. I'm the recruiting coordinator for my
okay,
company.
there you go.
And we literally any and every applicant that applies for a position is automatically sent a culture index survey that's basically like a personality quiz. And I have to assess what personality traits match best with the position that they're applying for and vice versa. And so we look for what's basically called like a high D. It's like your attention to detail and stuff in the line of work that we do. And so which this was a 30-minute conversation about just me and my boss laughing about like, yeah, this guy's got the high D, you know, that's what happened. Yeah, but that's true. Like then if you were to look at the past, like any employee that's stayed for the past like year or two, their profiles pretty much match because they've stood the test of time. And it's like I brought up two random employees that are in different positions, but very similar in the sense of like their scores are almost the exact same.
Personality.
Yeah, and so it's the same thing. It's just driving that in, I think, like you're saying.
Yeah. And I went back and even read the thing, and you're right. They bore no single bloodline, no tribal allegiance. So yeah, they were probably just screening at that point. I know a couple of the other legions, they went like far back and were drawing from a specific place on Terra that also enjoyed their specific style of war. But
yeah, like
not
a
these
good
guys.
example of that is like the Death Guard, who recruited specifically from like Albion. So, and I think that actually lends more credence to the idea of other factors than just origin for Space Marine recruits, because of exactly that. Like the Imperial Fists are recruiting from all over Terra, and continue to recruit from a bunch of different places. Yet they still seem to have a very strong personality type that comes forward. Now, again, I always want to leave room for the exception to the rule, because that just makes for good storytelling and character development, right? Like you could have a really hothead, emotional Imperial Fist. That'd be a cool, unique character. But overall, the Legion is not defined by those traits. They're defined by Dorn's specific traits. So yeah, always leaving room for the outliers and exceptions, but definitely the Imperial Fist is a good case study on Primarch genetics and behavioral programming, I guess.
It's like if somebody came up to me and was like, my favorite book is The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Yeah, and I just love Nickelback as well. I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? All right, there's an outlier there. Like you're not part of that. I thought you were a man of culture, but now you listen to a shit band.
Yeah,
sir.
Yeah.
There is nothing wrong with Nickelback, my guy.
And he's gone. Yeah, just like that, gone into the shadows to play with his teeth. All right, let's dive into their history. Started with we've been starting, but let's start on the Crusade, the Great Crusade. During the Great Crusade, the Imperial Fist stood as one of the most disciplined and efficient of the Emperor's Space Marine legions. Known for their unwavering dedication to the mission, they were revered for their methodical approach to war. Their record, well above average, was a testament to their mastery of siege warfare and their ability to adapt to almost any battlefield scenario. They were experts in both defense and offense, employing meticulous planning, precision strikes, and stoic resolve that saw them through some of the bloodiest and most brutal campaigns. While other legions may have favored speed or overwhelming force, the Imperial Fists excelled in fortifying positions, maintaining control over strategic points, and executing operations with a perfectionist touch. This efficiency made them one of the most reliable and feared legions, as they followed the Emperor's will, without question, whether they were tearing down walls or building their own strongholds. So I definitely condense this section. Go listen to the previous 2 episodes about Rogal Dorn. In the Great Crusade, Horus Heresy, you don't find the Legion and the Primarch apart, so wasn't much point rehashing, but they do a lot of cool stuff. There's actually quite a few battles that they go on that we have like entries on and stuff. So all types of fun stuff happen.
Cool. And speaking of fun, the Horus Heresy. Here we go.
Yes.
Party time. Now, of course, you gave me the Horus Heresy part. Like, this might get emotional.
Let's see if we can make him cry.
I know. I fucking knew it. All right. Oh, here we go. All right. During the Siege of Terra, the Imperial Fists were at the heart of humanity's final defense against the force of Horus. Led by their Primarch Rogal Dorn, they became the stalwart defenders of the Emperor's Palace, standing firm against the relentless tide of traitor legions and Xenos forces. Their role in the siege was nothing short of heroic, as they manned the walls, entrenched themselves in battle, and held back the enemy with an unwavering resolve. Known for their indomitable spirit and expertise in siege warfare, the Imperial Fists were instrumental in the defense of the Eternity Gate and the inner sanctum of the Imperial Palace. They fought with a tenacity born of loyalty to the Emperor, pushing back Horus's forces time and time again, even as the walls of Terra seemed to crumble around them. Though the siege would ultimately prove devastating, their unwavering commitment to their oath was a symbol of the unyielding will of humanity itself, and their sacrifice would resonate across the Imperium for millennia. Very cool.
Yeah, just they have the kind of worst spot in everyone in the Horus Heresy where they're the last line. You know, they get to stand on that wall, and there's nowhere left for them to go. There's no retreat spots. There's no fallback points. It's just you're there, and you stand till you're not standing no more.
Yeah.
They're the plan Z. Like everything else has led to this point. There is no other plans. You either do it.
Yeah, you are the plan. Yeah, and they actually did great. Like, man, if you had hindsight, the Emperor and the Primarchs, they wouldn't have went up to Horus's flagship. They would have waited one more day, another day, and Reboot Gilliman and everyone would have arrived. Lionel Johnson and Layman Russ, they would have all arrived, and then the Imperial Fists would have been the biggest heroes. They would have held out. And it was only like slight miscommunication, tease, a taunt.
They didn't know. That's the thing, right? Like they didn't know if help was coming at all. Even like to them, this was it.
I think it speaks to their character too, like how much I don't even know if I don't know if I want to say the word trust, but how trustworthy they were in the eyes of the Emperor and in the eyes of the Imperium itself. Like Perturabo kind of got the shit too, but he was one that like they knew he could fucking take anything. Like he's good at siege warfare. He could do it. Same thing with Rogal Dorn. It's like you may be in the shit position, but you're in the shit position because you're dependable.
Yeah. He was the 7th Primarch found, I believe, Rogal Dorn. So like pretty close to the beginning. Yeah, around the Emperor a whole bunch, obviously. Even before he got like the Emperor's Praetorian position, like yeah,
he definitely got to benefit the same way Horus did of that closeness to the Emperor.
Yeah.
Time spent with your father is always a good thing. That's your father's a bad guy. In which case, it's probably not. But
the cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon.
Let's get into the Great Scouring. Following the tragic conclusion of the Horus Heresy, the Imperial Fists played a crucial and somber role during the Great Scouring, the grim campaign to purge the traitor legions and restore order to the Imperium. As one of the most loyal and steadfast of the Emperor's legions, the Imperial Fists were entrusted with the daunting task of hunting down the remnants of Horus's forces, ensuring that no traitor would escape retribution. Their relentless pursuit of the traitors took them to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, where they obliterated the last pockets of resistance. In particular, they were instrumental in the destruction of the Sons of Horus and the reclamation of former Imperial worlds corrupted by chaos. The Imperial Fists' efficiency in warfare honed during the Great Crusade and the Siege of Terra made them a decisive force in the Scouring, but the cost was great. The Legion was scarred by the battles they fought, with many of their warriors feeling the weight of the Imperium's betrayal, even as they carried out their grim duties. Their determination to restore the Emperor's will never wavered, though the Great Scouring also marked the beginning of the transformation as they began to distance themselves from the Legion's once expansive role, focusing more on their duty as guardians of the Imperium's defenses.
Yeah. This is such a cool time zone or time period, especially for the Imperial Fists, where they become that like vengeful, crusading, angry son.
And it
Jack
makes
says,
Jack
says Imperial Fist should have been the default Marine instead of the Ultramarines. Prove me wrong. And yeah, man, I agree. Not only did they make a name for themselves like during the Siege of Terra, then the Great Scouring happens, and they're the push, they're the driving force behind it, even though they just fought off 4 legions and are probably feeling pretty hurt, but they go after it.
I think part of that too speaks to like obviously that Black Templar element of them that comes out to the fore, right? Like, oh, now it's our turn to strike back. The Empire Strikes Back. But also that they
first nerding, double nerding.
They have all these veterans from these battles, right? Like they are hardened and they're probably pretty angry about how, losing so many brothers and stuff. Like, yeah, it's their turn to take the fight to the enemy. So it is a really, really cool reversal. I would say that maybe the Sons of Horus might be, or Luna Wolves might be like the Great Crusade poster boys. And then you would say the Imperial Fists might become more so the the Scouring poster boys, and then I think they do kind of hand that torch over to Gulliman and the Ultramarines, kind of, after they burn out, and then the Ultramarines kind of carry on that torch of whatever's left of the Imperium.
Like even Rogal Dorn hands the title of Lord Commander over to Reboot Gilliman. The Codex Astartes, they follow that. So yeah, okay.
Right.
Jax had me all fucking amped up and agreeable.
Yeah.
Oh,
Mark is easily persuaded, if nothing else. But yeah, exactly. And then the Ultramarine, like Ultramar actually looks like it's doing better in the 41st millennium than Terra, right? So that's kind of where like the locus of power moves in a decaying empire. Like the main city, the capital almost kind of shifts.
Fun.
I'm interested why the decision was made to have Rogal Dorn send his forces to like hunt down the remnants. Like, why not Russ? Like it seems a little bit more.
They all did. Right now we're emphasizing the Imperial Fists, of course, because we're talking about them, and they were that driving kind of force behind it, like leading the charge. But certainly all the other legions were involved in the Scouring as well.
And like the Scouring too is like 1,000-year period, and Rogal Dorn made it to almost 800 years in, where a lot of the other Primarchs disappeared after like 10 years, kind of like pretty close after. So then that's another huge factor too, because even Rogal Dorn, I think he was the last Primarch around type thing.
Okay.
Yeah, like exactly. Like he represents the last great push and also the decline. Like once he disappears, the Imperium is just left to its own device. And Rogal Dorn would have seen the beginnings of the Imperium that will become this corrupted husk of the future. I wonder actually now if he almost went on like a suicide campaign, because he's like, man, after all that, what have we achieved? And then just like goes on a last charge, and
sure.
And that's why he comes back.
I like
the
that.
Dark Paladin.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I don't like it because he's not supposed to be dead.
No, well, no, maybe he
forever.
Still survives. Like maybe he has like a vision in his last moments, and he's like, "Oh, never mind. I made a terrible mistake."
Oh man, yeah. Well, let's dive into what these guys look like. The Imperial Fists, these glorious Space Marines. Pride in colors. During the Horus Heresy, the Imperial Fist Legion was easily recognizable on the battlefield by their vibrant and unyielding yellow power armor. This bold color was more than just a practical choice. It was a symbol of their defiance and steadfast loyalty to the Emperor. The yellow was typically a rich, almost golden tone, often matte rather than glossy, providing both high visibility and psychological edge. The armor was usually kept clean and well-maintained, in keeping with the Legion's disciplined and honor-bound nature. Some variation in shade might occur depending on campaign, with soot, dust, and damage darkening the once pristine plates, but the core color always remained a bright and unmistakable yellow. Thank goodness they're not the poster boys, because no one would ever get to their second model.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's once again, like, no one wants to paint white, and I think yellow is one of those, like, oh, I fucking hate yellow. Like, I don't want to paint that. There's such a cool Legion, such a cool chapter, and it's like, don't like that yellow.
I don't have it in me.
But you prime them white, you use Imperial Fist yellow contrast, and man, do they look good. Done. Like, they just look so good right there.
Also, a pink undercoat actually helps a lot with yellow. Yeah, it's I don't know how well of a known fact it is, but if you do happen to find yourself in the unfortunate situation where you have to paint a lot of yellow, pink undercoat, yellow overcoat actually makes that pop really nice. Yeah. So
oh, there we go. Picture.
I love that artwork.
Yeah, that's up there in my favorite 40K art.
Yeah. Just a bunch of Imperial Fists marching. You got white helmets in the front, the veterans, a couple cool thunder hammers and great swords. Yeah, classic, man. I love even in the back you see the Vindicar tanks, which you often don't quite see those. You don't very often see them, I mean.
You've got like the cherubs flying up top. It's rad.
Sweet little flying babies.
Little ammo babies.
We're
Yeah,
gonna do an episode
it's
on
cool.
cherubs.
Cool. The chapter badge, the emblem of the Imperial Fist Legion, was a simple yet powerful icon. A black clenched fist, most often displayed on the left shoulder pad. This stark symbol perfectly captured the essence of the Legion, unyielding, resolute, and ready to strike with precision and force. The black fist stood in high contrast against the yellow background, making it immediately recognizable, even in the chaos of battle. In some cases, especially on officers or banners, the fist might be encased in a circle or stylized with additional trim, but the basic iconography remained consistent across the Legion. Very cool. Lots of different iron hands, iron fists, Imperial fists. I mean, lots
The
of
iron
different
fists are my invention.
Yeah, I love that. I want that. Extra markings that they have beyond their core colors and badge. The Imperial Fists use a range of markings to denote rank, role, and company. Veterans were often marked with white helmets, distinguishing them from line troops and highlighting their experience and honor. The trim of the shoulder pads would be colored according to company. Example, including red, black, or even silver. Yeah, the Imperial Fist 5th Company, where they got the black shoulder trim. Now that's tight. Now that's what we want for living. Allowing for a quick visual identification of battlefield command structure. Squad markings were typically displayed on the right knee pad or right shoulder pad and followed standard Legion practice, using numerals and tactical symbols. Kill tallies, personal heraldry, and campaign badges might also be present, especially among senior and long-serving Astartes, but they are always applied with the same order and discipline that defined the Imperial Fists. Yeah,
Pretty sweet. Cool. I love the kill count idea. I think that's so cool. Feels very World War II-esque, like bomber style. That's just neat.
I like that. I imagine they have like decals that they put on though, like Roman numeral decals instead of scratches on. Like
little more defined.
Yeah. Etched brass or whatever they used to sell on Forge World.
Yeah, you can stamp it into their armor.
Yeah.
We do see though. There's I'm looking at examples just because the yellow is so distinct, but I'm trying to find it exactly. Don't they have like a checkered pattern that you'll see every now and then as well? Like a black and white checkered pattern that appears like, oh, there it is. It's on their banner.
You might be
sometimes
thinking of or are you thinking of Lamenters possibly?
No, like I'm looking at one of the old school, not so old school, but there's like the Imperial Fist banner. It's got the black fist in the center, and then divided in quadrants is like yellow on top left, yellow on bottom right, and then on the other sides there's checkered boards.
Oh, interesting.
As like their banner. And I feel like I've seen it in some people's like paintings that they've done, like on their pauldron or like a trim. But maybe it's just emphasizing the black and white.
You're definitely not wrong, Court.
Okay.
It is a theme that carries through. I always saw it as kind of like leaning into the brick and tower motif, right? Like they're in a penetrable wall, like the checker pattern, rooks, checker patterns, castle walls. You often find all those kind of themes, if not in official artwork, certainly in like spin-offs. People's paint jobs or like third-party miniature pieces.
Okay.
Yeah, all pretty thematic. Are the Lamenters a successor from the Imperial Fist?
No, they're blood angels.
Blood angels? Okay.
Yeah.
And you are also right, Mark. The Lamenters do have that checker pattern on their chapter symbol as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. We'll get into some of their beliefs then. Though Rogal Dorn was lost to the Imperium in the years following the Horus Heresy, his legacy endures with unyielding strength. His final acts were not of glory, but of necessary sacrifice, or, according to Christian, suicide. We'll see.
We'll find out.
An end befitting a Primarch. We'll find out. We'll find out.
Conrad Kurz.
I think it is pretty rad. Fuck. Here we go. Gosh. His final acts were not of glory, but of necessary sacrifice, and end befitting a Primarch who placed duty above all else. That cold clarity still echoes within the hearts of his sons. The Imperial Fists do not falter. They do not retreat. If they possess a failing, it lies in their refusal to bend, even when prudence demands it. Victory is often salvaged through this tenacity, but always at a toll paid in blood. The Siege of Terra marked the soul of the Legion. From that crucible of fire and ruin, the culture of the Imperial Fist was forged anew. Ritual, honor, and remembrance became inbound laws, and in the wake of the heresy, their shield companies were renamed in grim tribute. Each company bore the name of a wall or a gate they defended during the siege. First Hemispheric Wall Company, Second Daylight Wall Company, Lotus Gate Company, Anterior Six Gate Wall Company, and so on. Also Pink Floyd The Wall Company.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, and here's the thing. You paint your Imperial Fist pink first before you do the yellow, so it all lines up.
Oh, there it is.
Yes,
there it is.
Yes.
Oh, man. Another tradition arose, the abandonment of all past identity. When an aspirant was accepted, he shed his old name. His brothers granted him a new one, forged from the fires of character and bearing a, quote, wall name. Captain Courland, Slaughter, in quotes. Captain Sauber would be Severance. Dolores. Well, that one's a little interesting.
Dolorous.
Dolores? Okay, I was like, Dolores?
Yeah. It means pain.
Oh.
It means pain in like Latin-based languages. Like
Okay.
Dolores.
Okay.
Pain. And the name
I've
of
got
the
Space
no room
Marines,
to
you
talk.
heard it here first.
I've got no room to talk. My first name is actually Courtney, so it's just a little like it just sounded.
Where
it
you
sounded
make
like
fun of Dolores.
it's like the boy name, a boy named Sue, Johnny Cash. But this just sounded like the classic Imperial Fists. Like you've got Slaughter, Severance, Dolores.
Oh man!
How did you say it, Christian?
Dolores.
What is it? Dolores. Okay. Kill shot. There we go. Clever. Or Cleaver, I'm sorry, Cleaver. Oof. Cold Eye, Life Taker, etc. Dorn himself had claimed the first, Defiance. Thereafter, all were known as Wall Brothers.
They're really not good at giving nicknames and naming things. They're pretty fucking bad. And like, even though wall companies are like, let's just name them after the places we served. Okay, Anterior Six Gate Wall Company.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Like, who got Bathroom Wall Company? Like, bathroom down the hall. It was like,
oh, yeah. That's important. You have to make sure you maintain the facilities. Otherwise, the whole institution crumbles.
I know. Second level restroom company. Like, goodness. Which, just side tangent. I was at, fuck it, I will say the name of the game store. I was at Gamers Guild the other night, and they had to evacuate because they had a plumbing issue. And like apparently sewage was just like coming out of their bathrooms. And I was like, well, I guess now you're kind of right. Like they need they just need the second company bathroom attendant,
Yeah.
Battles
Quick!
are won in the bathroom.
Get the custodians too.
Yeah.
We need their help.
Yes.
We got a breach. Yeah.
I will say some of these names just don't feel Imperial Fisty, if I may be so bold.
I'm telling you, they're not good at their names. Like, what's a cool nickname? It's like Kill Shot. Like,
yeah, Kill Shot.
Like, just like
it's almost like they're trying too hard.
Yeah.
Some of those names, like I don't know which came first, if these names came first, or I feel like a lot of this character definement came through the Beast Arises series, because I know that's where Captain Courland and Slaughter comes from, and the wall name idea, I believe. I didn't like that. Even in execution, like sometimes it doesn't sound so good when it's like summarized like this, but like if you read the book, it's like a lot more badass. Definitely not this though. I will
and
say.
Slaughter made his way through the halls next to Kill Shot and Cold Eye. Life Taker was close behind. But Dolores was nowhere to be found.
Oh, it sounds like people from not what is the opposite of G.I. Joe? Cobra? It sounds like Cobra agents or something like that. Like it's so bad. Oh man. Anyways, for centuries, the Sons of Dorn held fast to the walls they had once bled to preserve. It was a sacred vigil observed not for glory, but for duty. the restroom wall and duty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, they believed war would never touch those stones again, but their watch endured regardless for nearly 1,500 years. In this silence, they waited. That silence was broken in 544.m32 upon the cursed fields of, oh geez, I'm having a Mark Logan Christian moment. Ardamantua. Got it. Fucking got it.
Winner.
Ardamantua. There, the Imperial
But what does
Fists,
it mean? Tell me what it means.
it means the art of Mantua. The Mantuan art.
Yes.
Ardamantua. There, the Imperial Fists were all but extinguished, torn apart by metallic Xenos known as the Chrome. God, can we get more creative? Come on. Jeez. Metallic Xenos known as the Chrome, beings that existed between worlds, fleeing the apocalyptic wrath of the beast. Unknowing of their greater storm, the Fists engaged the Chrome. I'm sorry. It's just, that sentence is just so funny. The Fists engaged the Chrome. Jeez. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, well, in like the Chrome are like these insectoid type things that aren't communicating. So I think this is once again Imperial Fist naming things like poorly.
Yeah.
We can't even blame the GW people. It's in universe, they're bad at it.
That would be actually pretty hilarious if they just went with that as a thing. Like they're so matter of fact that when they see things, they don't come up with like unique and creative names. They're just like they point at it and just call it what it is. That bug is Chrome. We will call them the Chrome.
Yeah. Oh, it just sounds like if you got mad at your web browser and punched your screen, like Fist engage the Chrome. The two forces perished together when the attack moon fell upon them. Only one Astartes survived to tell the slaughter. The Sons of Dorn are not given to grand words or empty pride. They are disciplined, unshakable, and silent in their suffering. The Codex Astartes is their scripture, studied with fervor to match the Ultramarines. Yet there are tenets they cannot grasp. Where Gilliman counsels caution, the Fists advance. Where the Codex advises retreat, they endure. Their flaws and virtues are one and the same. Others may call it stubbornness. The Imperial Fists name it duty. This burden is their honor. In moments of peace, they find no rest. Doubt gnaws. Regret festers. To quiet these shadows, they labor in study, in training, in silent reflection. Their pain is not shown, it is endured. The fire that once burned in Dorn's heart has not gone out. It smolders in each of his sons, waiting. And when it rises, it does not flicker. It burns cold. It burns steady, and it does not yield. And there's some really, we got from the goofiness to like how badass they are. Like truly, like there's some really cool phrases that I know that Mark, you've had in notes when we do shows. And I just go like, there's that chapter, there's that legion. And I think that was it right there. Like that's a selling point. You don't want to paint yellow, fine, but these guys are fucking rad.
I like too that they've had like in their short history so far, they've had a lot of very drastic changes, kinda, especially Rogal Dorn in personality. Like, yes, he's stoic, but then eventually he becomes that vengeful son. And same with the Imperial Fists. And eventually they go back to like being stoic. Sometimes they're just left on the walls of Terra for 1,000 years, and they're like, well, this is what we do, I guess. You know, they have a lot of different vibes to them. And then their beliefs change quite often because of it. And they incorporate a bunch of new stuff often where, you know, the Space Wolves, their traditions and their stuff was established by the time they got making Astartes. They were good. They knew what they were doing, you know. Yeah, these guys they change a lot considering how much they're like unyielding and not changing.
Yeah, yeah. For the most unyielding legion, they are quite yielding.
On the Lexicanum and on the Wikipedia page, I read about this junker model behavior. I didn't quite get the concept. Maybe let's read what it's about, and then maybe you could maybe we'll take some guesses.
Yeah. I can delve into that a little bit, but let me read the thing. But before we get into that, Grimaldus in the chat says, how much to get Christian to shave his beard into the Dorn stash right now? Funny story about that, actually. I have in the past done this. I do intend to do it again in the future, and I actually honestly regret not doing it for these episodes. I will be doing it very soon. I told someone at work today, actually. I was showing them pictures of it and telling them that it was coming. So
yeah, but that didn't answer the question. How much? How much does it?
$250. Like... I can't do it right now, though. That's the kicker. I won't do it right now, but I will do it soon.
This guy is like beating off watching you shave. Like
Grimaldus says, let's do it right now, live.
Do it live. We want to see Christian shave.
That makes for great audio.
The next 45 minutes of just silence, just hearing the blade scrape against my face. Oh no, sir. I use a razor.
Oh, you good man. Yeah, but no, you couldn't do that straight away. You'd have to.
Oh, I can.
Seriously?
You just lost Mark $250. Son of a
was that like the tax that he would have to pay you? Like he gets paid on this, and then Christian has to pay you the $250 that he got.
Yeah. No, it's a friendship tax for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
100% tariff.
Yeah.
On a friendship. All right. Anyways, let's get back to that junker model behavior. That stash is coming soon. Mark, are we doing an Imperial Fists episode or Dorn episode on Friday? Maybe it'll be on then.
Yeah, no, you won't be on anymore. Yeah.
Ever again.
That's right.
This will be your last episode. In case anyone ever heard that. Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's get back to the junker model of behavior. The Imperial Fists are bound to an unflinching precision and severe discipline by the will of Dorn. Precision in warfare and in the measure of one's own being. Thus, they embraced the junker model of bearing, an archaic and iron-willed code born in Prus and on ancient Terra. This doctrine demands ruthless exactitude in both the execution of war and the shaping of the self. So yeah, that reference to Prus is probably the biggest giveaway. Obviously inspired by Prussia and Frederick the Great, who shaped kind of like the Prussian forces into like the most efficient militarized fighting machine in Europe at the time. And he had a code of behavior that he instilled in his men. It's lengthy. I don't think I'll read it all here, but it pretty much followed things like courage, determination, discipline, incorruptibility, loyalty, reliability, punctuality. Like everything that so this whole era was like the black powder era, soldiers lining up and shooting at each other in straight lines. So it's that kind of, just for people to get like a mental picture of what we're talking about here. He really professionalized the military and then forged like the Prussian Empire. And those elements, trickle down into like the greater German bearing, let's say. So again, like very in line with what Imperial Fists are like, but it's like a behavioral code of ethics kind of thing.
Yeah. So when I read it junker, I should probably be reading it more like Junker.
I don't know about the name junker model. I don't know what that means specifically, but the reference is that it's part of like very explicitly, Prussian.
Okay. Obviously, like you said, we all knew this. This was for the listeners' sake.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I didn't need to know this, but I'm so glad that you explained it for Liar, for Grim, and Jax.
The Bartholomew in there too.
More you know.
All right, Court. Now, this is why I'm so glad to have you here. We're going to talk about scrimshawing. And I was wondering, have you ever scrimshawed a tooth before?
I don't even know what scrimshawing is. I've heard of it, but I have no idea.
Well, it's when you take one of those delectable little nuggets that you like to play with, and you carve different designs into it. Sometimes it's boobies, sometimes it's dicks, but usually for the Imperial Fists, it's cool sayings like fists of beauty, fingers of death, Emperor Fists with death in our trust. Stuff like that.
They are bad at poetry as well.
Hang on, because I think you read the last two lines a little fast because it sounded like you said the Emperor Fists with death in our tryst. Like the Emperor's not doing fisting here.
No. Well, what else would happen here then?
What it literally says is Emperor's like possessive fist, not Emperor Fists. With death in our
debatable. It's debatable.
Okay.
Read the poem properly because I actually have a comment to make too about this poem. But...
Well, you read it then, Christian. You read it.
Yeah.
Fine.
You know I can't read it properly, you son of a bitch.
I can't read poetry. Fists of beauty, fingers of death. Emperor's fists with death is our tryst. That last line there, death is our tryst, is like like a rendezvous of lovers kind of thing. Which reminds me of the poet Rendezvous with Death by Alan Seeger, which is a really cool poem. Up there, definitely one of my favorites. I'm not a big poetry guy, but people may recognize it from a Gears of War trailer. Which I'm not a big
poetry guy, but I like this one from Gears of War. It was a trailer. It was really cool.
No. It wasn't from Gears of War. It was written in World War One. The dude who wrote it died in the Battle of the Somme. So like he was a war poet. Like he, in real life, blended the two, art and death, I guess. It's a really cool poem. You should read the whole thing. It's lengthy. I'm not a poet reader, so I will not read the whole poem, but it's definitely a very somber poem. And then the double nerding of like it does appear in Gears of War if you want to listen to the first part of it, if you look up that old trailer.
Like
anyways,
the very first Gears of War, like the first one ever released.
I believe it's the Gears of War 1 or possibly Gears of War 2 trailer.
Okay, but
just look up Gears of War Rendezvous with Death, or just look up Rendezvous with Death and read the whole poem. But anyways, that's what I wanted to say.
Nice. Well, yeah, they like to carve those on bones. So that's
cool.
pretty neat. When the weight of memory passes down, some Imperial Fists torn to the solemn art of scrimshaw, engraving the bones of fallen brothers to honor what was lost. It is said that as an Imperial Fist endures the long years of war and watches comrades die one by one, the need to mark their passing through scrimshaw becomes inescapable. The act is a grim devotion, one undertaken to quell the burden of guilt, whether earned in truth or conjured in silence. At times it is imposed by chaplains as penance. At others, it is self-inflicted judgment. The results of such acts line the cold, echoing halls of the phalanx, their monumental fortress ship. These relics rest in tooled silver reliquaries or behind gilded glass where tireless servo slaves clean them in reverent silence. Officers bear scrimshaws as grim talismans alongside honors wrought from the shards of the emperor's own ancient armor, fragments from before his entombment upon the golden throne. Each bone carving bears meaning, weapon etched with mournful precision, armor plates rendered in miniature, or scenes of war engraved in eternal stillness. So here's the question, Court. When we die, if you die first, if I die first, can the other person scrimshaw the other person's corpse? You want to make that pact with me? Please, brother.
I'm in.
I'm
in. Let's do it.
Okay, sweet.
That's pretty rad.
Okay, I can't wait to see what you scrimshaw on my corpse and vice versa. Christian, I don't want you anywhere around our corpses, so you are not a part of this.
Somebody has to strip the flesh before you get to the bones, Mark. And that's someone's going to be me.
You like flesh? I don't even want to make that joke. Never mind. It's pretty gay. Anyways,
I'm
yeah,
in, though.
the
That's
scrimshawing's sweet. It's cool. It's too bad we don't see more of it on them. Like, you know, we do get lots of little bone casings and stuff on Space Marine models and stuff, and you always wonder what they're up to. Maybe you get the Roman numeral in the head. But yeah, it almost feels a little underplayed since it's like scattered across all Space Marines generically too.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like scrimshaw would be so hard to like on little bone fragments that small
Yeah.
on miniature. It would be so hard to depict even with like painting. But
Now,
yeah.
is scrimshaw specifically any type of carving on bone? It's not a specific type of style. It's the act of doing it on bone that's scrimshawing. Like you couldn't scrimshaw your armor is the question.
No.
Yeah, I think it is specifically. I've just Wikipedia'd bone or ivory.
Okay.
And it's more so what from again, like I went into this cold, but it's not necessarily carving. Like I know I'm holding it up to the camera so you guys who are listening can't see, but like I have this bone necklace, rather this amulet kind of thing-ish that's carved bone. This is not scrimshaw because it's literally just carving it. Scrimshaw is more like carving and then inking it itself. So you can see that there's like, it's not just carving away into like a little figurine or carving like some sort of words in it. It's literally like carving it and then inking these scrapings, carvings into it. So you can see that there's a definition between the ivory, the bone, and whatever the ink was itself. It's darker. You're on mute, Mark.
That's cool, that little ink aspect. I didn't know that. But yeah, I could imagine, yeah, they're rubbing that yellow in there and defining it, or black would be sweet, but yellow just because they're fists. But
and then it disappears into the yellowing bones. Yes.
Yeah.
Didn't think
Wait a minute. Shit. Well, they're fists, though. You know, they're not named, they're not creative, there's not poets, and they're definitely not artists. So
I don't know. I argue that in some ways because like here these guys are like known for their grim resolved and their steadfast, like we will not bend and all that. But we like crafts. Like we're really into crafting. And that's cool. And I think it is lost on these guys, unfortunately, because what a really cool thing to do and add if you want to pick up that little GW kit of just skulls and just start adding them to your Imperial Fists, you know?
Yeah. Start get a nice little Dremel going.
Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Now I'm interested. Maybe I'll start doing this. This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought you
have
might
a
be
Dremel.
interested in
Unlocked.
You got me. This is pretty cool.
Not any bone will do though. Only the finest of molars.
The finest. Yes. Very cool.
Jack in the comments says, "Don't they only have? Or sorry, when do they get the time to do art? Don't they only have like 5 minutes a day?" And that does bring up a broader point about Space Marines and free time. A lot of Space Marine chapters do have artistic and other practices that they pursue. There is dead time, you know, especially when they're transitioning between battlefields on spaceships. Like those journeys can take a while.
Yeah, even if it's only a couple months, like that still is a while.
Yeah, and you can only train so much. Even for a Space Marine, I'm sure they like to do other things in their spare time. Although, I mean, some chapters may not, but obviously this chapter carves out some time to do like practices that they find culturally enriching, or like, again, there's a ritualistic aspect to how the Imperial Fists do this, right? Like it's in memory of the fallen. It is like it takes on these extra steps that, yes, they will make time to do this thing.
Yeah, they do it in chapel instead of doing like rosary beads. They do that as part of the ritual, you know. Yeah.
Sure. I think that's the important distinction, Mark. And like you're saying in Christian, like it's not free time. It's not like they are doing this out of crafts. I know I joked earlier about it, but like this is part of their chapter makeup. Like it is a ritualistic thing that has maybe become part of them. So it's not like, all right, guys, 5:30 craft time. You know.
Yeah. The hand you're scrimshawing is the guy who just took a bolt around for you, you know, your brother for like 100 years. And you're like, fuck, how do I remember this guy? Oh yeah, I scrimshaw his corpse.
Yeah. Well, and they're putting bones and stuff in their walls and stuff. They're entombing skeletons into their walls. Like this is part of their
Shit.
culture and stuff. So it's
Did the
something-
Imperial just kind of start that in all of the Imperium then? Just putting
Yeah.
people.
It's pretty
Yeah.
cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Well, now we're going to get to something super unique, not inspired by anything whatsoever, like completely new. No one has ever thought of this in previous sci-fi literary work at all. So get ready. Completely
ready.
unique. Here we go. The Pain Glove.
Yes.
Pain is a lesson that the universe teaches us. Pain is the preserver from injury. Pain perpetuates our lives. It is the healing, purifying scalpel of our souls. Pain is the wine of communion with heroes. It is the quicksilver panacea for weakness. The quintessence of a dedicated existence. Pain is the philosophic vitriol which transmutes mere mortal into immortal. It is the sublime, the golden astral fire. And that is a quote by an anonymous chaplain explaining to Imperial Fists neophytes the philosophy behind the use of the Pain Glove. Now, not to be confused with the Nintendo glove or whatever the Power Glove. This is different. Okay? And again, completely unique in sci-fi literary work. Never been done by Dune or anything. Oh, shit, I let it slip. Oh, no. All right. Anyway, still pretty cool, though. So, but yes, very Dune-esque. So, when all other disciplines fail to silence the unrest within, an Imperial Fist turns to the Pain Glove, submitting himself to hours, even days of unrelenting torment, emerging cleansed of doubt, his mind made still and cold. The Pain Glove is a steel cage in which hangs a clinging sheath of translucent fiber, threaded with silver so fine it mimics the exposed human nervous system, a collapsed map of pain awaiting purpose. Head and shoulders remain free. The mechanism stretches the glove taut. The Astartes strips bare and steps inside. The fabric binds to every inch of his form, save the skull, the mesh clinging to limb and torso. Electrofibers trigger agony in every nerve, yet leave no wound. An ordeal without injury, a fire without flame. The mind suffers the torment of immolation while the flesh remains untouched. This ritual likely traces back to the aftermath of the Horus Heresy, when the Legion sought expiation for failing to prevent the Emperor's mortal wounding. The glove's machine spirits do not permit unconsciousness. Instead, they keep the bearer aware as pain scourges the soul from the shell. At the onset of his life among the fists, a neophyte may be cast into the glove to chasten weakness or begin the lifelong mastery of pain. But even those who have weathered 10,000 battles will return willingly, seeking absolution in agony, strength in suffering. More grim still, over the long millennia, some fists have been known to seek pain not just to endure it, but to conquer it, to break it beneath their will. This makes for warriors of unmatched resilience, but if unchecked, can lead to reckless self-sacrifice. The wise Astartes must wield this hunger carefully, lest he lose his judgment to the lure of pain. Yeah, obviously, very heavy Dune vibes there.
Do they call it the same thing in Dune, or what do they call it?
No, it's the test is called shit. I'm gonna have to look it up. It's Gamjabar tests.
The Gamjabar is the needle that they hold.
Needle, right? But it's the box.
Yeah, I think it's just a pain box is what they call it. And you put your hand in it and it just causes like excruciating pain in your whole body.
Yeah, the pain box. Yeah.
There's also in Star Wars a thing called the embrace of pain that an alien species uses to torture their prisoners, and then a particular Sith Lord starts using it to, like, same kind of idea, to master pain, to focus himself, pain being a big part of the dark side too. So you're right, it is like a tropey type device that exists across multiple sci-fi universes.
Yeah, Spaghetti Seth. He just says that it's called the box, so he's reading Dune right now, actually. So, yeah, that works. It's pretty cool, though. I will say that's a pretty cool thing. I do think that it is a. I would love to maybe get some stories of like where it leads to temptation, because this, like, if it's unchecked and you're going in there because like, ooh, maybe self-flagellation, pain vibes and whatnot, maybe get a little whisper of heresy or something. It could lead to something else.
Yeah.
So,
Little Emperor's Children type masochism.
yes, yeah.
That would be a fun
Because
story.
what's underneath that yellow ceramite?
Pink.
Pink.
The color of betrayal.
That's right.
Yeah. Fuck.
We've uncovered-
Somebody in the chat, I forget who, said, "Wait, so you put that on your balls as well?" And yeah, this mesh that you wear fully over all your body, very cool. Yeah, it's a weird thing to pick up. They didn't always have this this fetish, we'll call it for now. This was definitely after the Horus Heresy because of kind of Rogal Dorn and just the way he dealt with the Emperor's death. We read on the last episode, I think it was like, fuck, I wish I remembered. It was only like 15 minutes in one of these machines where Rogal Dorn did like 8 days or something, but don't quote me on either of those. But that was basically the spread. Like it was like minutes to days.
Like substantial, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it should be mentioned, like it's done for both purposes of like punishment, like self-punishment, like, no, you failed. This is what you deserve kind of mentality. But also, yeah, like it's
a tool as well.
Yeah, like a tool of self-discipline and self-mastery. Like if you're doing the plank for a long period of time, like it's your will versus your abs kind of thing. Like what's going to break first? Your mind or your body?
Planking, I'm going to think about this.
This is the embrace of pain.
Yeah, I'm going to the gym tomorrow night.
Getting after it.
Yeah, here we go. We're going to do it.
There you go. Should start a planking competition in the Discord and see who can go the longest in the embrace of pain.
Channel. Yes.
Everyone is an Imperial Fist on this glorious day. And let's see what the side effects are that might come from using the pain glove. You'd spray gene seed everywhere. The Imperial Fist gene seed remains among the most stable of all the legions, untouched by mutation. But that does not remain the case going post Great Scouring. Death before dishonor. Space Marines are shaped by their gene seed, both its virtues and its flaws, and the Imperial Fists are no exception. Their Primarch Rogal Dorn was a paragon of loyalty and martial discipline, yet even he bore imperfections he acknowledged in life. Dorn's grief at the Emperor's fall led him into a crusade of penance, culminating in the bloody siege of the Iron Cage. In that crucible, the 7th Legion was reforged, but not without cost. His legacy remains glorious, but a shadow endures within the chapter. An inherited compulsion towards self-judgment, discipline, and sacrifice. This manifests in 3 escalating forms. Level 1, suffer not the failure. The battle brother perceives himself as flawed and resists tactical withdrawal. Viewing it as dishonor, he becomes demanding as a leader, taking disagreement as defiance. Level 2, beware hubris. He obsesses over past battles, fixating on perceived shortcomings, condemning himself while holding others to impossible standards. He seeks redemption through combat. Level 3, none are flawless. He retreats into relentless scrutiny of every mission. Isolated and confrontational, he refuses orders unless they promise immediate battle.
Yeah, kind of cool. These are from the Fantasy Flight Games RPG, so this isn't necessarily canon. But I really do like how they break down these gene seed flaws and how they can do it very subtly, and then it affects your character as you play.
Yeah, very cool flavor. Yeah, it's very cool little additions.
Yeah, because in theory, you're supposed to then, I've reached level 2. Okay, now when people are trying to tell me important details, I'm going to tell them about past battle glories. That's how it manifests. And yeah, kind of fun forcing people to play a certain way when role-playing.
Yeah.
This tendency has not gone unnoticed. The Imperial Fists are infamous for their ritual self-punishment, most notably their use of the pain glove, the device that simulates the nerve pains without physical harm. Even minor failures demand atonement through agony. In their fortress monastery aboard the Phalanx, Dorn's preserved skeletal hand stands as a symbol of ultimate loyalty and sacrifice, a reminder that service to the Emperor demands all. Though masters of siegecraft and ranged warfare, the Imperial Fists also prize close combat. Dueling is a long-standing tradition used not only to settle honor, but to sharpen skill and spirit. Veterans bear the scars of these contests as grim badges of growth and survival. Dueling scars are also prominent. I know they were prominent with a certain 1940s German group, but that was a tradition that came down from like the German Empire, which I think was also a Prussian ritual where they would have these, like, you'll notice a lot of them have base scars that comes from dueling. And I wonder if that's also kind of a through line to the Imperial Fists. Yeah, potentially. Duty defines the Imperial Fists. Their strength lies not just in their fortitude, but in their refusal to yield to weakness, even when it is their own. I don't know if it's a flaw in their gene seed, but isn't one of their glands that where they spit acid doesn't work anymore?
Yeah, but I think that happens later. So this is 30K, but by the time 40K happens, yes, they can't spit acid and one other one. I could pull up on my other notes, but
But back then, yeah, they don't have any
Yeah.
glaring flaws, kind of like, let's say the salamanders or the raven guard, where like their skin pigments like are radically different, or eye color goes radically different.
They pick up one other defect too, called Dorn's darkness, which is you could almost call it like a form of depression rage.
Depression rage.
Yeah, well, basically, like as Dorn like gets older and older, and he just starts seeing everything fall apart, and he feels like he's a failure. Like he gets dark, but then he just gets angrier. You know, the more depressed he gets, the more violent he gets. Essentially,
So. Sounds like my stepdad. Just kidding.
That's me.
I don't even have a stepdad.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, the fists are cool. They got a fun gene seed. I remember the other thing in Fantasy Flight games that they had is not only did they have defects, they also had percentage of it like taking in a candidate essentially, or like success rate of gene seed. And the fists always ranked high up on that. So they have a very successful implantation rate and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, that speaks back to that, like that level of variance. Yes, the typical Astartes of this chapter is like X and Y, but again, you always have outliers. You might have a space marine who this odd organ might not take and might not work. He's one out of the whole chapter, but maybe the second heart didn't take and he only has one heart. Like this can happen. Like space marines overall are using a crude practice passed down over thousands of years using like curating genetic material. Like a lot of things can happen in that process that goes from anything from killing you to turning you into a monster to totally perfect paragon of Astartes beauty and strength, right? Like
here, drink this blood, it'll make you stronger. And then
you have visions of death.
Cool. Let's go into recruitment next. The Imperial Fists, born of the void, forged on countless battlefields, draw their recruits from worlds both distant and grim. Among them, Terra and the hive hell of Necromunda. Their fortress chapels, scattered across the Imperium, are sanctuaries of discipline and vigilance. These hollowed halls, manned by veteran warriors who bear the scars of battle, some grievously wounded yet resolute in their service, are watchful of those worthy of the chapter's austere calling. Unlike many of their brethren, the Imperial Fists lay no claim to political favor or dominion over the worlds which they take their neophytes. Their presence is one of quiet authority, seeking out potential warriors not through influence, but through silent observation of the populace. In some places, they hold trials of strength and skill, testing to seek who prove themselves. On others, they orchestrate violence, pushing the other people to their breaking point in order to find who will rise above the rest. In the hive cities, they conduct purges, cleansing the lower depths of the crime and squalor. while they claim to do so in service of the local government. The true purpose is far from focused, seizing those who they deem worthy, men and women of exceptional martial potential, to be tested for the inclusion of the chapter trials. I wrote women there. That's not true yet. After talking to Jervis Johnson, who the fuck knows though? Hey, Christian. The Imperial Fists ask little in return for their trials, only the right to choose the finest among those who would join their ranks. Whether born of noble bloodlines or the seething underworlds, the aspirants are shaped not by their origins, but by the discipline and duty inherited from their Primarch. The doctrines of the chapter are inscribed upon their souls, replacing old allegiances with unyielding resolve of a true Imperial Fist. Upon selection, the aspirants undergo rigorous examination. Their past misdeeds, if any, are scrutinized, and they are subjected to harsh tests of the mind and body. Their strength, resolve, intellect, reflexes, pain tolerance, and combat prowess are all measured with cold precision. Aboard the phalanx, they are immersed in language of the Imperium, learning its dialect through the use of casket. The final trial, the Tunnel of Terror, is a test of endurance, where the aspirants are exposed to the extremes of heat, cold, and the void itself, each step more harrowing than the last. Those that endure are marked, their bodies branded with the symbol of the Imperial Fist, and they are inducted as neophyte cadets. Once again, their naming conventions are not good. The Tunnel of Terror.
Yeah, that's bad. I giggled.
Cool trial. Very cool trial, but horrible name.
Bad.
The transformation into Astartes is not swift. The neophytes are indoctrinated, trained, and subjected to surgical implantation of gene seed organs. Among these are the Primarch implant, celebrated through the consumption of venomous creatures, a ritual that strengthens the bond between warrior and chapter. For the Omophiliaga, the neophytes consume flesh and divining its essence, gaining insights into the creature from which it came. With these rites completed, the neophytes are sent to their families, who are informed of the great honor their children have received, joining the Emperor's chosen as one of the most unyielding warriors. The Imperial Fist path is one of unrelenting rigor, where strength and stoicism are forged into the very marrow of their being, and where only the resolute survive the trials set before them. Cool. Yeah, I really like that test of the Tunnel of Terror test, but the rest is pretty standard, it seems.
Spaghetti Seth, if we could just highlight his comment on the last, that was so good. Damn, I didn't know that the last trial of the Imperial Fist was to go on that Guardians of the Galaxy ride at California Adventure. Because it was the Tower of Terror originally. Oh, so good. Nice.
Yeah.
What an interesting thing here with the neophytes that are sent to their families after they're just to inform them of joining the Imperial Fist.
You made it? Yeah, that does seem odd. Yeah.
Very odd. Very out of character for Space Marine indoctrination and recruitment, where it's like, hey, go tell them, versus no, you're never going to see him again.
Yeah. And maybe this only happens on on Terra. You know, I could see that where the noble families who petition their sons forward to join the Imperial Fists, like, yeah, it'd be cool if they found out if their son actually got in. But, you know, I don't think they're doing that with Necromunda people.
Right.
Or even Inuit. But
yeah, it's interesting.
It does vary from chapter to chapter, right? Like you go anything from salamanders, space wolves, I believe, might know at least what clan they came from. It's I like it all, but it does lead to questions. So in terms of I was thinking maybe they did do it to encourage maybe that line, like it builds like a lot of honor and loyalty in that family to know that their son has become an Imperial Fist, and like, you know, they should be lauded and celebrated, and it engenders loyalty in that family to the Imperium generally, and specifically to the Imperial Fists. But I also wonder if it I was gonna say maybe it causes a family to want to produce more Imperial Fists. You know, like, well, if one of our sons made it through all that testing, maybe another one will be successful. Now, on that note, it makes sense for someone like the Imperial Fist who kind of like get their stock from across the galaxy. But if you have a certain chapter that's like milking a specific population over hundreds, if not thousands of years, where when you're removing these like specimens from the genetic pool, in theory, in which case like you're taking them as young boys, so the good chance they don't have families. Which like, so when hunting, for example, there's a practice where like if too many hunters are claiming like trophy hunting specifically are claiming the biggest and strongest like males, that the genetic population will start to deteriorate because you're removing the best specimens from that population, right? So if you kill the deer, if you're constantly killing the deers with the biggest antler racks, you start shaping that population so that the next generation, and all following generations don't have as prominent antlers anymore. So in a way, you're kind of like neutering the population. So for Space Marine chapters to be recruiting from the same groups, again, I kind of went on like a mental tangent here while you're reading that. Overall, probably might not be great for recruiting in the future, especially by the way that they recruit.
I feel like though typically they do like a big ceremony every 100 years. So it's like every 100 years you take some of the best people that want to try out. So, you
Sure.
know, that does cut down a little bit on that. But yeah, I see what you're saying. Like if every generation after generation you're taking the best and the brightest, then
Before they get a chance to reproduce specifically is the problem.
yeah.
Now that being said, genetics also works in a funny way where like, yeah, if you have a breeding couple, a married couple, whatever, on a planet that produce, again, like I said, one son that was good enough, maybe they will produce 3 or 4 more sons that carry that same genetic history and lineage. And I think you're right too, Mark, where you're not doing it all the time. So you could have people born in a generation where the Space Marines never came by and never recruited you. So, you know, had fate been different, you could have been a Space Marine, but just by virtue of them not being around to grab you,
You're a guardsman.
yeah, but you did manage to have a family and push those traits down into the, you know, 2, 3, 4 generations until they come around again for another recruiting pool.
Yeah.
So anyways, yeah, my mind went on a huge genetic tangent there. When you were talking.
Anytime you talk about abducting children and giving them your seed, your mind goes on tangents.
Jail mostly.
Jeez. To give you credit though, Christian, I think like that's I think it's very creative and like intuitive kind of how you've put that. I would doubt that's what GW writers are kind of considering and thinking. I truly love what you said, and you're spot on. I think we're rationalizing, I don't want to say irrational writing, but just like writing that had no purpose there. But because truly, like, it's the grimdark 41st millennium. Like, all right, you made it. You're an Imperial Fist. Now go home and tell your family. No, fuck that. Like, get on the front line and start shooting.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
We got walls to man here.
Get on the wall. Oh, man. I don't know. It feels a little hokey to me, but it also might just be kind of a cool thing that someone threw in there once as a writer. I don't know.
You never know. Yeah, like it could have just been that one Imperial Fist told his high noble family lineage on Terra one time, but whatever.
I will lend more weight to the idea of engendering loyalty, because the Imperial Fists are loyalty builders, they're fortress builders, but not so much through like oppression, but through creating something better than what used to be. So I think there is a strong case to be made for the idea that so a good example in real life are the Janissary Corps, where the Ottoman Empire would kidnap Christian European children and recruit them into becoming some of like the best shock troops, completely indoctrinated into Islam and loyalty to the Ottoman Empire. And so that built that like the Janissaries were like crazy loyal, right? Like suicidally loyal. but they were made out of the children of their enemies, right? So that same idea of like they're not just fortress building. The Imperial Fists are building a fortress out of the people to be exceedingly loyal. By like your son could
And
be.
then when they die,
Marine.
they take their bones and build another fortress out of them.
Yeah, it's a never-ending supply line. Yeah. No, but like I said, they're building the loyalty as much as they're building brick and mortar fortresses, you know?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, because they're, I don't know if they're mainly recruiting from Terra, but their homeworld, rather, I mean, they're kind of Terra's poster boys in that way. Like you want to represent that, and you want to represent your, I don't know, like where you come from that way. So it's like an honor. And so maybe, like you said, only with Terra or something, it's like, all right, now go home and tell mom and pa. Like, okay, well, but I'm from Ultramar. Yeah, well, you didn't make it in the Ultramarines, so we took you. So we don't give a shit about what your family thinks. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of like worlds that have been brought into compliance, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that's
after
what I mean.
you conquered them, it's a good loyalty builder.
Yeah.
Like, hey, your sons are now fighting on our team, so don't ever rebel. And if anything, it's actually an honor to become a Space Marine.
Oh, that's a good
honor.
point.
We kidnapped your son.
Look how cool he is now. Kill.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
They call me Bill Kill. Like, okay.
Kill Bill, yellow jumpsuit, yellow power armor. We've come full circle.
Whoa!
That's okay.
There it is.
We're in it again.
Spaghetti Seth says, "You died? Congrats. You've been promoted to the sandbag division."
Yeah. Yep. Perfect. Well, speaking of worlds and homeworlds, let's chat a little bit about the Imperial Fists homeworld. So, the Imperial Fists, unlike many other chapters, are tied to a unique and shifting legacy of homeworlds, each etched into the various foundations of their history. Initially, their origins trace back to Terra, where they were forged into the Emperor's warriors, and it was from this world that they were first recruited their ranks, becoming Terra's official protectors in time. However, the arrival of Rogal Dorn, their Primarch, on the icebound world of Inwit marked the beginning of a new chapter in their tale. Inwit became not only the site of Dorn's discovery, but also the second world to serve as their home, a cold and unforgiving planet that mirrored the indomitable nature of its new masters. Yet over time, as the Imperial Fists became more intertwined with their duty in the void, the phalanx, a massive impregnable battle barge, grew to symbolize the heart of the chapter. The great ship, ever drifting through the stars, became their true homeworld, a place where the Imperial Fists could feel the weight of their legacy and the unyielding strength of their purpose. In the cold expanse of space, the phalanx is their sanctuary, their fortress, and the unshakable anchor of their eternal vigilance. Cool. I still like to think of them as like Terra boys. Like Phalanx is cool, but I don't know. I know, Christian, you're going to talk a little bit about their association with Terra, so I think that might make me feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, they'll always have a special place in Terra's heart.
Yeah.
I do find it odd that they never built the same relationship with Inwit that a lot of Primarch homeworlds had.
Yeah.
You know, maybe the population wasn't enough to exclusively recruit from there. I don't know if there's any special insights or just the way that they are.
I know earlier lore, Rogal Dorn, I believe, was found on the phalanx, just in front of Inuit. And it's not necessarily that that's where he's from. That's just where because the phalanx could go anywhere it wants. It just happens to have been in front of there. But that we're talking like very early lore. Like that probably is
not
the
canon anymore. No.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't.
So maybe it's just that one of those weird, like they had a hard little transition or didn't transition it properly, but whatever.
All right. Well, let's get into their other quote unquote homeworld, Terra. Terra, or in the most ancient records, Earth, is the throne world of the Imperium of Man and the original homeworld of mankind and of the God Emperor. It is the most sacred and revered place in all the million worlds that comprise the Imperium. Billions of human pilgrims from across the galaxy flock to Terra. Even the barren and contaminated soil that these pious folk now tread upon when they reach humanity's homeworld is considered sacred by the faithful of the Imperial Creed. It's nice to know that one day my sewage will be sacred ground for someone.
Sure will. I've been bottling and selling it for years now.
You got to let it ferment for 10,000 years before it has any value, though.
Mhm.
Pillar of Bone.
That's right.
The Pillar of Bone is a monument to the Imperial Fists' courage in an unnamed campaign, and is in truth a sacred relic hidden from most of the Imperium. It stands as the last remnant of the Imperial Fists Fortress Monastery on Terra, destroyed during the Siege of Terra in the Horus Heresy. To most, the heresy is a forgotten legend, and few dare acknowledge the chaos forces ever defiled the ground of Terra. The pillar bears the scars of battle, with holes torn by bolter fire and filled with scrimshod hands of fallen battle brothers. Imperial Fist chaplains would often add relics to the site, and occasionally recruit worthy pilgrims as aspirants. It was here that Darneth Lysander, future captain of and hero of the chapter, was chosen after surviving the slaughter of his family. The chaplain who found him believed he had the blessings of Rogal Dorn, a judgment proven true as Lysander's career unfolded. The Column of Glory. Or sorry, do you want to talk about that? Or?
Fucking cool. It's interesting they never rebuilt their fortress there, but like once again, the Phalanx is kind of always has been, even before Inuit, they've been their kind of home, you know?
Yeah.
Rogal Dorn, so.
Yeah. The Column of Glory. Another of the Imperial Fist's greatest relics stands on Terra, cold and unwavering. The Column of Glory, a towering crystalline spire, rises half a kilometer high near the Emperor's throne room. This monument is wrought from the shattered armor of every Imperial Fist legionary who fell defending Terra and the Imperial Palace during the final battle of the Horus Heresy. They melted down their armor and built a giant spire out of it. That's kind of cool. Terrible use of armor, but cool legacy. Inside the broken suits, their bones lie, their skulls locked in eternal grimaces within the open faceplates. No Astartes could ever hope for a nobler resting place. The Column of Glory endures a silent testament to the sacrifice of Dorn's sons, who gave all in the Emperor's defense, their duty unwavering even in death. So not just their armor, they throw the whole body on that spire.
Yeah, fucking crazy. What a weird kind of thing.
It's half a kilometer high. How big is the Burj Khalifa?
I think it's a kilometer, isn't it?
It is big.
830 meters to tip.
Okay, so almost a kilometer. Low.
That's what she
Slightly
said.
short.
So maybe like a little more than half the size of the Burj Khalifa.
Fun. It's a fun time. That's a fun mound for sure.
That's a lot of dead bodies.
Wow, the creativity of humans. Ah, yes.
The
Especially
testament
those
to
fists.
creativity. Yes.
Yeah. Terra, you know what can be said
That's the
about
fun,
it.
ridiculous 40K stuff that I love. Like that makes no
Yeah.
sense at all, but it's just so cool.
Yeah. We have the home planet Inuit next. I feel like we talked about it quite a bit, and of all the Primarch worlds, I feel like it never really was fully developed, never really fully touched. Wasn't the best setting, but it was basically a cold ice world. And like I said, you should go back and listen to Rogal Dorn's first episode, and you'll learn a lot more about it. Cold, unforgiving, harsh. Everything you do kind of has to have a point to it. You know, you can't be excessive with fuel waste, all that kind of fun stuff on that planet.
Yeah, and no doubt inspired by the Inuit of real life. Cold, north.
Yeah.
Elements.
Barren. But the big ship, the main character itself, even more prominent than Rogal Dorn. Rogal Dorn only served 1,000 years. The Phalanx, though, that has a 10,000 year history to the Imperium. And it's got fun battle cannons, so that's neat.
And it can teleport places.
Yeah, on this one, they actually wrote out a bunch of different locations on the phalanx. Everything from the arena restrictica to departure bays. And they got little definitions. Maybe we'll just read through them, and if we're like we don't quite get what they're trying to say, we'll read that little blurb I wrote. Because there's a lot. There's like 4 pages of this shit. So
Yeah.
Sir, these sacred
Which is
texts
cool
are
in
not
and of itself
shit.
that it's so fleshed out.
yeah, like it's super cool, and like you could do a whole episode on the phalanx for sure. But like I said, the departure bay,
Mhm.
we got it.
Just as a heads up, like my internet is shit right now, and so I think both of you guys lag like every 5 seconds. So I'm hoping you guys can hear me and see me. So we'll see. So
Yeah, we're good.
we've got the Arena Restrictica, Departure Bay, 4-deck, Sigismund Tactica. So I think that's one that deserves a little bit of a word touching. So the Sigismunda Tactica is the strategic heart of the phalanx, a chamber where the mightiest minds of the Imperial Fists converge. It is here the battle plans are laid and strategies devised with unwavering precision. So this is like their war room, basically. Pretty rad, but a very cool name for it. The Sigismunda Tactica. Then we also have the Observatory, Librarium, Apothecarion. All these seem pretty self-explanatory. Internal defenses, the Panpsychon.
What is this?
Psychicon? The Panpsychicon. Pretty sure that's it. It's the soul of the phalanx, a data network so vast and intricate that it is said to possess a mind of its own. AI, anybody?
Yeah, fun.
It coordinates every aspect of the ship's function, internal logistics, and battlefield command. Cold, unfeeling heart. I would bet the tech priests love this thing, hopefully.
Yeah.
I would bet
They
they
would love
it.
talking to it. All that knowledge, 10,000 years of knowledge. Even more.
I was hoping they don't hate it and see it as like an AI thing, but I think it just being a thing and part of 40K and part of the Imperium means it's not hated by the Adeptus Mechanicus. So probably revered.
There's a bit of a duality to the Mechanicus if you listen to the Mechanicus God episode we did.
Yes. We have the Strategium. Tactical decisions are made there, like a command center, not necessarily like a war room, but a little different. The Hall Martalis, the Grand Chamber of War for honor and glory. It's where their Imperial Fists were remembered and celebrated. Lots of banners and trophies there. Temple of Oaths. It's a solemn place where Imperial Fists swear allegiance to the Emperor. A little more ritualistic there. There's the silence of the temple is filled only by echoes of vows. Bit churchy there. Very cool. The Cloister of Remembrance, another quiet sanctuary.
Perfect for scrimshawing, I'm sure.
It's the Scrimshaw Central on Wednesday nights at 7:30. So the Cloister of Remembrance is looks like it's more like a solemn, solitary, like very quiet thing, more reflecting on those that they've lost. The Scriptum Ascenda is the High Archive. So it's recording all the chapter's deeds and warfare, trials, all that stuff. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then,
really fleshed out. Very cool.
Yeah. This ship also has like a crew allotment. Like we know how many people are on this ship. I didn't write it down. I forgot to. It also has like, bedding, cafeterias, mess halls, all the stuff to hold that many people, facilities, all that kind of stuff. So it's a massive place.
But it has way cooler names though, like the Legio Cafeteria.
Yeah, exactly.
Legio Cafeteria.
I like it.
The Restus Rumus.
I was gonna say the toilet Titanicus. But...
There it is. There it is. Yes.
All right, well, let's move into the combat doctrines of the Imperial Fists. The Fists uphold the tenets of the Codex Astartes with unwavering precision, no less devoutly than their kin of Ultramar. Their squads, companies, and households are forged in accordance with that of sacred writ, and their conduct of war spans all forms: orbital descent, armored advance, or grinding attrition. They are the embodiment of codified warfare, precise and unyielding. Yet there is a mode of war that speaks most to their nature: siegecraft. This is not born of preference or reliance on arcane engines, but of who they are. In defense, they are immovable. In assault, inescapable. The science of war is etched into their marrow, and no bastion stands long against their steady hand. They neither shy from open combat nor seek the walls of a citadel, but when such walls rise, they are brought down with ruthless certainty. Their doggedness, though noble, carries its toll. The Fists do not yield not to logic nor odds. Where others might fall back, they stand. Where others might relent, they endure. This iron-willed refusal to break has often brought grievous losses. But losses are counted only after the objective is taken. The wall is held, the foe is broken. Such is the creed of the Imperial Fists: unyielding, unsparing, eternal. Yeah, of course, there's this big emphasis on siegecraft with Imperial Fists. And this goes for all Space Marine legions and chapters, that, yeah, they have a preferred mode of war, or they excel in a certain kind of war, but they are very much capable of all kinds of warfare, and that shouldn't be forgotten.
Yeah. Cool. Martial traditions that they have. The martial traditions of the Imperial Fists are built not on ceremony or spectacle, but on discipline, duty, and pain. Unyielding pillars that reflect the soul of the Legion. Their rights are harsh, their expectations absolute, and their rewards are measured not in glory, but in survival and obedience. Honor is a cold, quiet thing to them, expressed in endurance, not a claim. They do permit honor duels, but they are solemn affairs reserved for moments of doubt or dispute, never indulgence. Each trial, each scar, each oath carved in silence serves one purpose: to forge warriors who do not falter. For the Imperial Fist, there is no room for flourish, only the wall, only the war, and the will to endure both. So the Imperial Fist during the Great Crusade, Horus Heresy, maybe a little bit, maybe not so much in the Horus Heresy, but Great Crusade, they definitely like doing their honor duels. Eventually, they evolve as well, the honor duels, into the Feast of Blades, which is kind of cooler than the honor duels. I think we get the honor duels. I wrote a little bit here, but I think we'll skip them. On the next episode, we go into the Feast of Blades, like all the different chapters that come to it, and yeah, lot cooler. Let's dive into even organization. I'm wondering, I want to do call-ins. We're running out of time here. Organization, it's pretty Codex Astartes, pretty Legion standard. At the beginning of all these Primarch episodes, we did a Legion breakdown. So if you went in there, that's probably going to be pretty much par for the course when we're talking about this Legion. They do have two special units that they like, and that's the Templar Brethren, which we can read about, and the Phalanx Warden Squad. So the Templar Brethren, they're super cool. Known simply as the Templars, stood as uncompromising elite of the 7th Legion, guardians of the Temple of Oaths aboard the fortress ship Phalanx. Theirs was a duty carved in unbreakable stone, warriors of unwavering faith and honed lethality. The Templars embodied the Legion's grim resolve. No weakness was tolerated, their induction was harsh, and few endured it. Yet those who did become a blade wielded with silent precision. Though bound by oath to Phalanx, the Templars walked every battlefield of the Great Crusade where the Imperial Fist brought war. They bore relics of old and most precise weapons of the age. Technology from the depths of Mars, handed to those who did not bend. Experts of close quarters combat, they struck with power swords, guided by instinct and calculation. With their combat shields turned aside, while their combat shields turned aside death. Clad in artificial armor, they advanced without pause. Their arrival marked the end of many enemies, swift, merciless, and absolute. No defense stood long against their advance. Yeah, the Templar are cool. They didn't have the fists, they don't have much, but they have the Templar, and this is kind of where they put their best swordsmen, or maybe a little bit of the unruly they would put here too. Maybe those who kind of got a little bit too much of Dorn's anger. But also, like, it's an honored position. Like, it's not.
Yeah. And not at all foreshadowing.
Yeah, not at all foreshadowing. Yeah. It is cool to think that, yeah, they do become the Templars, obviously, the Black Templars. And just like even that color scheme that they have in 30K with the yellow and the Black Templar kind of mixed together, super cool. They also have phalanx warders, drawn from the breacher siege squads of the 7th Legion. The phalanx warders were assigned to the last and most vital duty, the defense of the phalanx itself. Clad in layered ceramite, bearing boarding shields like bulwarks of war, they met the enemy not with glory, but with necessity. Trained for unyielding combat, they fought from behind their wall of steel, repelling invaders with methodical precision. Theirs was a style not born of spectacle, but of inevitability. Each motion a practice in survival and eradication. Discipline was their only creed. They did not seek honor, nor did they display the trappings of achievement. The continuation of service was enough. When the hull shook, the alarms blared, the wardens stood ready, and they were the last to fall back and the first to advance. They do not boast, they do not falter, they hold. Always. Fucking cool, man. And 10,000 years later, they're still holding the phalanx together. Siege after siege, man.
All right, they're still around in 40K?
I would imagine, like, they don't seem like they would be like a part of the official 1,000 guys. Like, this seems like something else. But hard to say. I like to think that they're still there.
Like they still have the phalanx, so it would make sense that they exist in some capacity, but maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't
You
have
still need
power.
to defend it. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like maybe everyone takes part in it. I don't know. Model wise are pretty interesting, but yeah.
Yeah. Board
They have an
shields.
official model.
Yeah, they have Horus Heresy model units. They're like an upgrade kit. They come with axes and shields.
Oh,
yeah, and their
cool.
Mark 4 face plates all the vents are sealed over with like just plates. It looks really sick.
Oh, cool. Okay, that's worth a Google.
I love that look.
And
of course,
we're gonna go
the laurels all over their bodies. But sorry. Okay, go on.
Oh yeah, these guys are sweet. Yeah, that yellow and black, it looks so good. And then you slap the fists on there. Ooh yeah. Cool. The wargear of the Imperial Fists, they use everything. When reading about them, I feel like they slowly leaned into bolters being their preferred weapon.
Bolter drill, bolter discipline.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they kind of levitate towards. But it's like, why? I don't know. Well, not why, but like, it's just basic, man. It's just
there's nothing wrong with basic. It's like their Primarch, dude.
That's what I was gonna say. I think it matches their style. It's the tried and true. It's nothing fancy.
Reliable.
It's just like resolve. Yeah.
Don't poop on the bolter, the chancellor, my guy.
Yeah, other legions though, they have fancy like Cavalite blade of the Dark Bane, and but there's nothing too crazy here with the Imperial Fists. It's all pretty stock.
Guns does make sense for Imperial Fists too. If you're doing siege warfare in the 41st millennium, you're probably shooting from a wall for most of the battle. So.
And then Power Fist in the other hand, so you can pick up like bricks and throw them at people or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note just of what's going on with them when the second founding was in place here. So following the adoption of the Codex Astartes in the early decades of the 31st millennium, the ancient Space Marine legions were divided up into 1,000 separate chapters, as we all know. These smaller forces were created so that no single commander could ever again deploy the full power of a Space Marine legion, as had happened during the Horus Heresy. We all know how that went down. Not great. During this time, the Imperial Fists, Primarch Rogal Dorn secretly laid the foundations for the emergency protocol known as the Last Wall. It was a contingency plan intended to be used only if the Imperium was ever brought to the brink of annihilation annihilation as had happened during the heresy. So creating the once again, like the last line of defense, like these guys just like this is the last thing just in case.
Just
In case. Yep.
Yeah. The Last Wall Protocol. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but I'll get into it first before I talk about it. The Last Wall Protocol was laid down by Rogal Dorn in secret in direct contravention of the prescribed dictates of the Codex Astartes and the oath sworn after the heresy when Rebot Guilliman's reforms of the Imperium were enacted. The Last Wall Protocol could result in the condemnation of those who dared follow its dictates as traitors to the Imperium. The Last Wall was only to be enacted in the event that Terra should face a grave threat or perhaps even have fallen to an unknown foe. Then the Sons of Dorn would come together to deal with the matter, reforging the 7th Legion of old. Though the Space Marine legions had been broken apart by the Imperial decree, the Imperial Fist successor chapters would remember and come together in the last place their enemies would ever look for them, a place that lived long in the memory of Rogal Dorn's sons, the Fall system.
Fucking cool.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the cooler things that came out of the Beast Arises series was this Last Wall Protocol, where they literally reforged their legion out of all their little chapters. They all come together.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes sense considering who they are and kind of their history with kind of being that last wall of the defense of Terra. I believe the Dark Angels have a similar thing going on with their what do they call it?
Yeah, the circle goes many layers and into many chapters for sure.
Yeah. Similar, not the same, but similar, kind of like
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
I know I said on the last couple episodes that there were only a couple Imperial Fist successors, and I named Black Templar, Crimson Fist, and Soul Drinkers, but there's actually a couple more. There's the Iron Knights, there's the Fist Exemplar, and there's also the Excoriators. So we talked about how Rogal Dorn broke down his personality almost into a couple. Like the Black Templar is very obvious who went to the Black Templar. So just kind of keep your eye, like what personality trait, if any, it doesn't have to be, would Rogal Dorn have that then he put kind of into this chapter or whatever. So we'll start with the Black Templar. The Black Templar are a chapter defined by their zealous devotion to the Emperor and their relentless pursuit of heresy. Specializing in close quarters combat and crusading warfare, they are often found leading massive assaults against enemies of mankind. Their chapter culture is one steeped in fanaticism, with warriors often seeking redemption through battle, viewing themselves as the Emperor's sword, striking down those who defy him. They are known for their strict codices, vowing to fight until death in their never-ending crusades, with many Black Templars viewing the Imperium's wars as their sacred duty to cleanse the galaxy. Yeah, they're fucking tight. They're one of the most iconic things in all of 40K.
Yep, 100%.
That perfect blend of something that like is an ancient past, but you bring it forward.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then we get to my favorite success. Oh, go ahead, Christian. You got something?
I was just gonna mention on the thing of successor chapters. Yeah, there's like over 30 plus successor chapters for Imperial Fists.
Oh, really?
But is it second founding though? Is the big
and that is a question? Is like, how many were direct descendants from Imperial Fists or like Black Templars descendants? So like,
right,
grandsons of the Imperial Fist kind of thing.
Sure.
But, yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Go on. Crimson Fists.
Yeah, Crimson Fists, my favorite successor chapter and my brother's first 40K army. So pretty rad. The Crimson Fists are renowned for their resilience and tactical acumen, especially in defensive operations. Their chapter culture is one of unwavering loyalty and sacrifice, built around the belief that victory can be earned through perseverance and self-reliance. Often working in tight-knit squads, they excel in holding ground and responding to unexpected threats. Following the near destruction of their chapter on the world of Rin's world, the Crimson Fists have cultivated a deep sense of duty to rebuild their ranks and defend humanity at all costs, even at the expense of their own lives. And they just look rad. I just think it's such a cool color scheme. Yeah.
What were they, the 3rd edition poster boys?
No, that was still Black Templars, but they were the 3rd
Yeah.
edition Codex poster boys. So they were on the Codex for Space Marines. And it was God, what the fuck's his name?
It's that iconic last stand.
Yeah.
Or there's just like a pile of Marine bodies and then yeah.
That's that pillar of bone or whatever.
They're rebuilding it on Rin's World. I like to call it Rhine's World, in the wrong pronunciation.
Rhine.
It's like the Rhine River, Germany. Again, associations. Although the Imperial Fists have a little bit of a Spanish influence.
The Crimson Fist, you mean? But yeah.
Yeah, sorry, the Crimson Fists, yeah. Like a conquistador almost vibe to them. I think either one of their chapter masters or like there's Pedro Cantor. I believe there's a Cortez, another Cortez in the I keep saying Imperial Fist, Crimson Fist. But anyways, Court. I'm just stalling for Court to find whatever he's looking for.
I know. I'm like looking. I was like, oh, I was trying to figure out who, because I thought it was a specific character on the cover for the Space Marine Codex that features the Crimson Fists on there, but I don't think so. Maybe I'm missing it.
Is it Cortez?
It might be.
Anyways, while you keep looking for that, I'm going to move on to the Iron Knights. Known for their mastery of mechanized warfare and their cold, methodical approach to battle, the Iron Knights are a chapter that places great importance on discipline, precision, and the use of advanced technology. Their chapter culture revolves around a deep respect for the machine, with many of their warriors embracing the machine spirit as a vital part of their being. They are often deployed in highly strategic engagements, using armor and heavy firepower to obliterate enemies with surgical efficiency. Their warriors often view themselves as an unstoppable force, embodying the perfection of man and machine working together in harmony. Very cool. Very much in line with my Iron Fists type idea.
Yeah.
Definitely see some Iron Hands influence there. It's cool that you're really into the tank and heavy armor warfare. That's a really cool aspect and ties neatly with the rest of the chapter being like impenetrable advance, right? Like tanks are just moving walls with
somebody's got to man those Vindicars.
Yeah,
for sure.
And it's also cool because the knight aspect also ties to another element of Imperial Fists. You know, the Templars. These guys are like more traditional, you know, shining knights type guys.
Riding their steel horses.
Yeah.
Cool. The next one is the Fist Exemplar. The Fist Exemplar are the chapter with the culture of duty and honor, known for their specialization, expertise in siege warfare and defense. They are often called upon to hold vital locations and storm fortifications of their enemies, fighting with unparalleled focus and a deep sense of responsibility. Their warriors pride themselves on being the finest exemplars of the Imperial Fist legacy, adhering to strict codes of conduct and putting the defense of the Imperium above all else. They are less inclined to seek glory than they are to fulfill their duty, seeing themselves as stalwart defenders of humanity's future. So this is cool. You can very much see who he would have put into this chapter. All the prideful, kind of arrogant. But not just that, like, you know, anyone who cares about kind of ceremony, I guess he might have put over this way.
Traditionalists. Yes.
Traditionalists, yeah.
I was gonna say it still feels very Black Templar to me.
Is it because of the name Exemplar? Perhaps?
That too, but just I don't know, like strict codes.
That's fists for you.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be overall themes that hit all of it.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
I'm going to make the Templar Exemplars as a custom chapter.
Templar Exemplars. Get out of here.
Well, next we have the Excoriators. The Excoriators are a chapter marked by their grim determination and obsession with the purging of heresy. They specialize in covert operations and surgical strikes, often operating in the shadows to root out corruption and traitors. Their Chapter culture is one of intense introspection and personal atonement, with many excoriators seeking redemption for perceived failures in their past. They are a chapter of secrecy and discipline, often working alone or in small elite squads to infiltrate enemy strongholds and destroy them from within. Their warriors carry the burden of their history with them, constantly striving for personal and chapter-wide absolution. That's really cool too. I really like that, actually. Small tactical squads infiltrating, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and personality-wise, they're like the I don't want to say self-loathing, but self-criticism that Dorn carries with them, right? Like they're the embodiment of that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Last but certainly not least, and probably favored by many, the Soul Drinkers. The Soul Drinkers are a chapter with a complex and tragic history, marked by their descent into bitterness and defiance of the Imperium's rigid doctrines. Once noble, their culture has evolved into one of independence and distrust, often at odds with the wider Imperium. They specialize in warfare that blends brutal assaults with tactical innovation, often making use of their advanced weaponry and unorthodox strategies. Their culture revolves around the belief that they must drink from the soul of their enemies, a symbolic act of claiming strength and victory. However, this has led to them being branded as traitors by many, as their chapter struggles with its identity and its place within the Imperium. Despite this, the Soul Drinkers are fiercely loyal to one another and will fight to the end for their brothers, even if it means defying the Emperor's will. If I'm not mistaken, they also have a high propensity towards psychers, I believe. It could be.
Yeah,
mistaken.
is it psychers or like mutations?
I think the mutations stem from the warp influence, and I could be wrong.
Sure.
I haven't actually read the Soul Drinker novels. Everything I know is almost what do you call it? Like absorbed through other people's consumption of Soul Drinker propaganda. But yeah, they're obviously they're the outliers, the more creative thinkers, the times when Dorn doesn't stick to doctrine, those rare points where he kind of comes up with something unique.
Yeah.
When we talked about the Dorn episode, you were saying those like little pinpricks of like not acting how he typically acts. Yeah, I think that's the part that the Soul Drinkers embody, is that
is it possible that it deep down somewhere in Dorn he wishes he had his independence and like his own will, and this could be that people who just kind of don't follow the rules, like it's not so much that spark, because that spark I think comes from something different.
That's more of the Templar spark you're talking.
Yeah, it's that anger spark. That's where Dorn starts to get creative, is in his anger. Where this is like almost like that non-compliant, like this every time Dorn told to do something is something in the back of his head saying you don't have to do that, but he does it anyways because that's what's required. I feel like this is the type of people he puts into his Soul Drinkers.
That's the rebellious streak. Yeah.
Man, I just went down like a weird rabbit hole to find Sarpedon.
Oh yeah,
with these Soul Drinkers. I was like, oh, Soul Drinkers, that's cool. They look cool. Who's that guy? What's going on with him? And I was like, holy shit, this is rad. Wow.
What a trail to go down.
I was just like, Google. What the fuck? Who's this guy?
That's Lexicanum for you, my guy.
Yeah.
The cool thing too about the Soul Drinkers is that they are labeled heretics, but they don't see themselves as heretics. They are still loyal in their own eyes to the Imperium, but they are branded as heretics by everyone else.
Yeah, so, like a renegade chapter.
That's
cool. Yeah. Well, that's them. Which of yours of those chapters is your favorite? You cannot pick Black Templar. Let's say that. We got Crimson Fist for Court.
Yep, that's for me. Yep.
Yeah, that's an easy one. Christian, you like the Iron Knights maybe, or?
Yeah, I was kind of fluctuating between Iron Knights and Fist Exemplar.
I think you'd make a good Fist Exemplar, personally. Just standing at the wall, being all cocky, yelling at people your laurels.
Until I get shot off the wall by a sniper.
Yeah, I think you'd be great up there. Well, I guess that leaves me to pick the Black Templar then. Sweet. Well done, everyone. I fucking love it.
No.
You know,
what about the excorridors or whatever? Excoriators.
Yeah, those guys, not quite my vibe. I've never ever had a moment of self-doubt. Never once.
Maybe you believe in the exemplars, Mark.
Yeah. Cool. Well, what a fun chapter. That's the end of our notes. We got a little time for one call-in. Looks like we're gonna get Jax up to the stage when he's popped up here. Yo, Jax, what's good?
Not enough much. You guys?
Do you like how I stole your identity today in the Discord? Me and many others.
Nope.
No,
Yeah,
you don't like that. Okay.
we got a whole Horus?
Got
Yeah,
alpha
I don't
leaks
know.
out there.
I don't know how it happened, but if you join the Discord, you too can become Jax Carnage and steal his name. But maybe you're Jax Carnage 69. I don't know. I don't want to tell you who you are, but you could be Jax Carnage if you join the Discord.
I mean, hey, I've been looking into too much Slanesh stuff, so maybe 69.
Maybe that's you, your true form. Hard to say. Hey, how do you like the Imperial Fists? Do you like their guns and stuff?
Oh yeah. I think they suffer from the White Khan syndrome is now what I'm gonna call it, where it's like they're really cool Slayer and like that's it. More books for the Ultramarines, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the next big book series being the Great Scouring and how that'd be cool and how like the main character could be Rogal Dorn in such a series and that Imperial Fists being main chapter, which would be sweet. Would you read such a series?
You've got potential. Oh yeah, for sure. Like the War of the Beast and the Scouring, like the Imperial Fist like hard carried the heresy already. Like the loyalists were down to 3 chapters on Terra, and the Imperial Fists were like carrying the whole thing on their backs because the Khan was out racing Mortarion. Sanguinius was soloing Angron and a bunch of demons. It was up to the Imperial Fists to really like take on everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, like them like getting a little payback in Scouring.
Yeah. Love the payback period.
Pretty rad.
For sure. If you could be put into one of the second founding chapters, which one would you kind of go towards?
I always had a thing for like loyalist chapters that are branded heretics, but they're really loyalists.
Aha.
Gotta go with Soul Drinkers because
There it is.
their name sounds, first of all, like so Night Lordy, like Soul Drinker,
Oh,
like
I fucking
edgy
knew
as
it.
hell.
Yeah.
Oh man, you wouldn't believe it, Jax, but I actually might have to be buy myself some Night Lords pretty quick here. You wouldn't believe it, but my Unbound idea. I feel like there's an episode brewing, and with it requires a box of minis of Night Lords to kill teams. So Night Lords cruise,
So cool.
It'll get us all at the end of it, I think.
Yep. I'll be damned if Discord doesn't fall to the Night Lords soon here. And the great Jax Kerfuffle Heresy.
Cool.
Nice.
What other thoughts about the Imperial Fists you have here? Any closing thoughts?
I'd really like to see, I don't know if it's going to be addressed on like 40K episode, but some like Imperial Fists who like really let their anger out. Like instead of being like really like faithful to the Emperor, like they go to Khorne.
Yeah, we got some good pass towards Khorne and Slaanesh there with the Pain Glove. Not so many towards Chinch. Nurgle Resilience. Yeah, it could go that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Imperial Fists, as I said, like they need more lore. They need more like pizzazz.
Yeah. I'd be okay with that. Well, cool. Thanks for calling in. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace. How we going, guys?
See you, Jax.
All right, and then there are 3. And just like that, my voice is starting to get raspy
Mm,
and my eyes are getting heavy.
yes.
Yes. Fun episode. I love the Imperial Fists. I think I think what I like about them the most is just kind of they're not fully what you see on the surface. And by that I mean, we see them as these stoic figures, but especially in 30K times, you get a lot of different personality types in this chapter that then eventually get broken down and kind of separated. But to start, it's very, very fun chapter that has a couple very distinct times where like, oh, we got to reorganize, or oh, let's incorporate this into our beliefs now because this happened. Yeah, it's kind of changing.
A lot of cool pieces. The Phalanx is cool. How fleshed out
Yeah.
that is. Their successors are cool.
The
Yeah.
Phalanx comes up again in the next episode because we got
Mm.
10,000 years of history. And like I said, the Imperial Fists are nothing without the Phalanx. So
Yeah.
that shows up for 10,000 years.
Mhm.
Christian, you just want his mustache. We know this. We know this to be true. But you turned down
Coming.
$250.
It's still
to
coming
shave
though.
it. Okay. Well, that's good.
It was the shaving live on the episode, which is the problem.
Okay. Well, so
Not for
wasn't
$250. It's
Yeah.
not. Come on. Jeez. Sell
Dude.
out.
That's USD. You're Canadiano. That's like a lot of money for you.
It's a lot
You
of
could
shekels.
retire. A lot of shekels. Cool. Well, let's do closing notes here. Hey, go buy miniatures from Merlin's Miniatures. Use promo code Lorehammer. Use the link in the description below. Very cool to use Merlin's Miniatures. Also, come check out the Lorehammer Listen to Lore podcast. I read homebrew lore. You can submit your lore to me. I read it off. It's a good time. You can even join me on that show. I read with you. Fun times.
Yeah. And if you want to hear more of me chatting about different games, variety of games, card games, RPGs, more about Warhammer, Magic the Gathering, stuff like that, and a lot of nerding, then listen to season 1 of the Funkatronic Rex podcast. Season 2 is taken over by my good friends, and they're doing a killer job. Season 1, we had Mark on there as a guest, and that's when our brotherhood began. So go check it out, the Funkatronic Rex podcast.
Yeah.
And maybe one day you too can get your teeth scrimshawed. If you like Pokemon, come check out the Pokelore. Not yet a podcast, but will be soon. Currently just YouTube channel. Like to lean into more of the visuals right now, but it will be in podcast format soon. So stay tuned for that.
Cool. Well, everyone, we'll see you all on the next episode of Lorehammer. Don't forget to make a pact with one of your close friends. Who's scrimshawing whom? You got to know these things before you die. These are necessities.
These are the important questions we ask.
They are.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Adios. See you on the next one.
See you.